Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Please like, share and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Press like and subscribe.
Welcome. Where the paranormal becomes normal. Sit back and enjoy as we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole. And into the unknown.
Hello and welcome to today's show. I'm joined by the wonderful co-host Nicole, and our guest today is the amazing Dr. Jim Segala. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
For those who don't know, who've been living under a rock for God knows how long, so Dr. Jim became, I suppose, more known to us through the TV show Skinwalker Secrets. And I've been binge watched it, as you know. Just not done season 4 yet, but there's a reason behind that, which I told you before. So yeah, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming on.
No, it's a pleasure. It's great meeting your audience.
Yeah, you say that now. You might think that in about 5 minutes.
The spears start throwing.
Sorry, Nicole.
I was rewatching last night.
Skinwalker.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
It's an intriguing show.
It
is. So, obviously, first question is, how did you get involved with Skinwalker and Brandon?
So I got involved with Skinwalker well before Brandon really became owner of the ranch. So I worked for a institute out of Austin, Texas, called the Institute for Advanced Studies in Austin.
Yeah.
And it was headed by this gentleman by the name of Hal Puthoff, who also served as a science director or science advisor for Bob Bigelow. Right. And when Bigelow owned the property, Hal Puthoff was his main science guy who, kind of directed him how to do things, how to perform all his investigations and science discoveries and all those kind of things. So when I went to work for Hal, part of the things that came back into Hal's organization was a lot of the data from the Bigelow adventure that he was there collecting data. In fact, a lot of the people that were the science people that were boots on the ground actually ended up being part of the group that I was in back in Austin. So, I kind of mingled around with those guys and learned all the crazy stories and all that, all the weird stuff that happened during the Bigelow era. And then I started to get more into, because my background is in the medical physics, in biological physics. So I started to investigate or work with Hal, investigating a lot of the injuries that were happening, not so much on the ranch, but in the area and a roll around the paranormal area where people are actually really getting hurt in very specific ways. So that's how I got started in this whole thing, investigating all those injuries that were occurring because they were having these experiences and seeing UFOs and doing all those kind of things. They were being left with these injuries. So Hal put me on the team that went in and looked at and tried to understand what these injuries are. Why are these injuries happening?
Yeah. Can you talk about what, prior to Skinwalker, about looking at the injuries of these people that have had paranormal encounters?
Sure. So all along, for while Bigelow was on, so Bigelow was there for quite a few years. While he was there, a lot of the people that were doing investigations, or not so much doing investigations, but people that were involved with the people that were, the scientists that were having were ending up having these pretty significant injuries where they would have lesions on their bodies, or they would get these area times when they would go into a catatonia, or they would have extreme headaches and things like that. And it was leaving them, putting them in the hospital, where they were having to go and actually get medical attention for some of these fairly profound injuries that they were having. So we started investigating these, and more, of course, when you start investigating things and you're starting to look, you start finding all new things. And then we were finding many more patients that were actually coming forward that were having encounters, going onto a ranch, or going in the area, or going into other areas of the United States that have some strange phenomena happening, and coming out with physical injuries. So Hal was always interested in that kind of stuff. I mean, that's right in his strike zone. So we were investigating these things, and it was just accumulating we had like over 45 cases in total of verified medical injuries that were actually seen by some attending physician in some hospital, or maybe outside. And then also they were claiming at that time, coincident with that time, to have a very significant or profound paranormal experience where they were seeing UFOs, or they were seeing visions, or they're seeing orbs, or something like that. And then you put those two together, and that's when we started investigating those kind of injuries.
Yeah. Did you find any pattern with the injuries and what people were experiencing?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. So that was actually led us into the next phase of what we were doing. What we were finding is that a lot of these people would walk away from having these experiences, would walk away, and these lesions would end up in a lot of we all have these viruses that are all constantly in our bodies. Like we have herpes, and we get cold sores. I mean, it's all over the place. But a lot of these lesions would pop up and become very apparent during these encounters. So it looked like it was kind of related to some autoimmune or something like that. So the patterns that we found is that they were getting lesions and injuries very, very similar to the kind of things you get when you're exposed to a radiation source or some kind of electromagnetic source, where some energy is incident on your body, and it enters your either your skin or some of the higher energy stuff can go deeper into your body. So the patterns were such that we were seeing that kind of correlation.
Yeah, because didn't that happen to Travis when they started?
Yeah,
when they located that thing underground, and as soon as he started looking into it, he got the lesions on the top of his head.
Yes. So in fact, at that time, that was I believe that was in the first season. So Travis and I worked very closely together, and we were always talking about things that happened and how they happen and how they can manifest themselves on your bodies. And it turns out that a lot of the people that get hurt are what you call people that are susceptible to experiencing, like paranormal experiences and things like that. Other people don't get hurt like that. So it turns out that Travis is an exceptional experiencer. He has a lot of experiences that, I mean, he didn't know that until the time that we started working together, where he was starting to see things that no one else was seeing. And when you start doing that, I mean, that is like, it rings paranormal. I mean, you're seeing things, you're doing things, and you're seeing orbs, you're seeing, things that are out in the woods and things like that other people don't see. And at the same time, he was getting these lesions. So that was the correlation. And when I informed him that, I was working with a medical doctor doing these investigations, we found that pattern to exist. And I think that he came to a good realization that it's not something that is unique to him. He wasn't sick or anything like that. It's just part of the whole paranormal experience.
Yeah. Oh. So what was the longest time you spent on the ranch? Because obviously there's a lot of filming going on. So
the time that for the filming was very short. It was only like 2 months, 3 months. I had spent several years going back and forth, spending time on the ranch, doing investigations, putting equipment there, doing things. Because Brandon, at the time that I went there, it was actually Bigelow sold it to Brandon at that point. and I started going there a little bit more often. And the what was happening is that we would go there, and because Brandon didn't have any scientists really, I mean, there was no scientist. He had basically just security guards, and the only scientist he had was Travis, but that was only not until the show started. I was kind of acting as the scientist there, so I was allowed to do all sorts of crazy things. So it was great. It was actually
got away
great.
with everything.
Yeah. So at that time we were putting equipment on, we were gathering data and things like that, and that led to then he got that contract to do the show, and then he said, "Well, why don't you just come and be the chief scientist on the show?"
Fair enough. Offer you can't refuse.
Nice. So I was there quite a bit of time outside of the show doing investigation, and then once the show ended for me, that first season, I stayed in that region and continued to do a lot of research into the region because I had so many contacts of people that were experiencers that were having issues, that were basically scared to go out of their front door because of these things.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you had a chat with the locals, like the neighbors and other people around the area.
Lots, yeah. And I had very, very fortunate enough to meet a lot of the people that were. I had a very good friend was a Native American. And they knew all. I mean, this person knew everybody. So I got into contact a lot of these people, and they was very receptive to helping me do some research in the area.
Yeah. Because I remember I was reading up on it, like I said, when we did the shows on Skinwalker, and it was like even like back before it was used for it. Well, it was never used for anything really, but even the Native Americans wouldn't do anything with it. I remember it was the Mormons that moved down and they went into the area, but they could never use it for vegetation or anything like that. So they kind of just used it to just live there and
for cattle. I mean, it was good for fairly good for cattle. Yeah. If you go there, it's like it seriously is a desert. I mean, it is a desert. You can't. There's no crops. You can't really grow anything. It's kind of funny because everybody has these conspiracy theories that it's the government doing experiments. I said, who the hell would ever come here do an experiment? There's nothing here.
Right.
So it's interesting.
So that's my question. Like chicken or the egg, what came first? Is there all this phenomena happening because there's something about the area? Or is there something about the area because all the phenomena is happening?
Well, that is probably the one question that everybody gets wrong. And I think that the people on Skinwalker Ranch, all due respect to Brandon and all of his people, but I think what happens is that you get people that are receptive, that are paranormal, and they can read. They go to a property like Skinwalker Ranch, that's when stuff happens. You take that element away, it's literally just a piece of dirt. It's when you start bringing in the people that are sensitive to this and have experiences, that's when the phenomena starts interacting with that. And that's when you start getting weird stuff. It's like when Travis wasn't there, nothing ever happened. Like it was kind of funny. They were, I one point before the show started, I classified Skinwalker Ranch as the greatest scientific laboratory for doing this kind of experimenting until I realized that it doesn't really work without people. It's when you get people there, and it's when you get the right people there, not just people. Yeah. And I think Bigelow was so frustrated because he brought people there that were scientists, and scientists by definition are really not very good at believing that kind of stuff. So they never had any great interactions. It's when you brought the other type of people there that were experiencers and really in tune to that kind of thing. That's when you get the cool stuff happening. So to answer your question, Nicole, I think what happened is that I think it's always been there. I think that when people started to realize that paranormal things started to happen, more paranormal type people migrated to it or started going there. That's when you started seeing all the really cool stuff happening, is when you start getting the element there. And, there's another ranch that I work a lot with is Blind Frog. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the same exact situation there. Normally, nothing happens. You can't possibly get anything to happen. But when you start bringing in people that are very sensitive and have like you bring some people that have gone through a lot of the experiences and things like that, that's when all the crazy stuff starts happening. And that's when the good scientific data gets available.
Yeah. So can't speak. You know of Stardust Ranch in, I think it's just outside Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Have you
very
done
good.
any? Yeah. Have you done anything there, or are you planning on doing anything there?
Well,
Because
unfortunately, we were
Makes
completely
me so
going to
much.
go. Yeah, we were going to go there and set it up, and unfortunately, the owner died just recently. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he just
I was going to
passed
say it was
away.
within the last 12 months. It's,
Yeah, it's horrible.
Is it Robert Edmund?
I think Robert. I believe it was his
Sure,
name.
it's Robert
Yeah.
Edmund.
So it's
Yeah,
unfortunate. His wife is still there, I believe.
Yeah, because
You know,
I was
we were
speaking
gonna-
to his wife, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Yeah,
she-
go ahead.
And she was saying about that he died and that, he was doing his funeral, and would I be willing to put the link up so people could watch his funeral for those that couldn't get there because of how known and how respected he was.
Oh, that's very nice of her. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I
so-
really never met her. I met him. I never
Yeah.
really met her, but my friend that I was friend with in Uinta Basin was very friendly with her, and
Yeah.
you know they had done a lot of talking. So you know I haven't contacted her at all to see if we can do anything there, but I believe it's still going on.
Yeah.
You know,
So
all the
do you
paranormal
believe, I know we're dipping out of Skinwalker, but do you believe the stuff that Robert said that was going on at Stardust?
Well, you know, you can't not believe it. That's the point of
Yeah.
doing this. You can't not believe it. You have to take everything at face value, and you say, okay, that's a theory, and you have to say, okay, you have to say, how do I now take and like, how can I prove that? How can I get some more evidence to say that that's real? So that's what you do. I take everything at face value and say, okay, I mean, I understand you have this observation. Now let's take it to the next step. Let's see if we can figure out if, you know, where this is coming from, how it's getting. So I think he actually had this. If somebody was standing next to him, could he actually have the same exact experiences? I don't know. I don't think he ever had that.
No.
But I totally believe that he himself saw these grays in his living room, talking to him and all that kind of stuff.
And he kind of like decapitated one and threw it in the freezer.
Who knows? Who knows? It's in the refrigerator. Okay.
And then it was shipped off to an unknown location to have tests done, and it was left there, and he still had the he was still able to go and check it, and he could retrieve it anytime he wanted to.
You know, you take everything at face value. You say, okay, that's interesting, but let's go to the next level with this.
Yeah. But I think the more obscure it is, the more believable it is.
Yeah, you know, I think that, or I like to say that the more people disregard it as nonsense, the more I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I think about it.
Yeah, it's just the way he said it. He's like, I remember listening to an interview, and he said he was never more than either 6 or 8 foot from some sort of weapon to defend himself for when all this weird stuff was going on and his visitations and all that.
Yeah. Anyway, so and there's another ranch in that area that is very
Bradshaw.
Wilson.
Bradshaw?
Mount Wilson Ranch. I never hear of that. It's in Nevada. I think it's in Nevada.
No, I've not heard of that.
A lot of paranormal experiences. So doing some stuff there right now. They have a lot of UFOs. They have a lot of weird things happening. So that's going to be a very interesting site.
So what's kind of your process? Like somebody says they're having, this stuff going on at the ranch. What's the first thing you do when you go in?
Hold on. So my dogs are barking. I apologize.
It's okay.
So basically what we do is, what I like to do is, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And my wife is not home, so she can't.
Mine's barking in the background all the time.
Oh, good. Okay. So basically what we do is, like for instance, have you guys heard of the Hesston lights in Hesston Valley?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
There's another situation where you have a lot of weird things going on in an area, And in fact, we just kind of closed the deal with the people there, the directors there, that we would come in and put instrumentation there. And the instrumentation is basically going to be looking out throughout, the area, getting data, collecting data. But what's unique about what we're doing is that we're putting it out to the internet so everybody can see it, and letting people actually access it all in real time and interact with the stuff. So that's kind of what we do. So like at Stardust Ranch, the plan was actually to go there and actually put some equipment there that will corroborate what he's saying, allow him to actually enter in on a daily basis narratives of what's going on during the day. And then we can marry those narratives with videos and recordings of sensors and environmental factors that we measure throughout the environment. So that's typically what we do. Is that answer your question, Nicole?
Yeah, definitely.
So have you found a connection of the different ranches that you've been to?
Well, each one are kind of unique. So like Skinwalker. So Blind Frog Ranch was actually quite interesting. There was a lot of UFO activity, but it actually is located in an area of the Uinta Basin that is just before the mountain range,
right? Okay.
Which is very interesting, and it's a bowl shape. Stardust Ranch is the exact same thing. It's just in a valley, just before a valley of a big mountain range. So it looks like it's always seems to be this, it just coming off this valley. It's like, and there's a lot of vortexes, a lot of cloud vortexes. You always see those cloud vortexes generated because of the way the heat manifests itself in mountainous areas. And there's always seems like in the Stardust area, in the Arizona area, there always seems to be those vortexes going on when weird things going on. So we were trying to measure all that stuff. So the same thing happened. I think actually we found one on Skinwalker Ranch, but it happens a lot more on Blind Frog Ranch, where you got these big vortexes because it's so close to the mountain range, and you get all those thermals coming around. And Mount Wilson is also the same area. So it's actually kind of weird. So I think they're all they're all sitting in a valley of a mountain range.
Right.
It's kind of strange. So so that gives you a way to look, right? It gives you an interesting place to go look.
Yeah. So when you've been there, obviously, because you're science-based, have you ever, I'm not talking about the TV show now, but just when you've been on location, and have you or Travis or any of the other guys that you've been with had something go on that nobody can explain? It's just, we have no idea what is going on.
Yeah, several times. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of things happening that you can't explain. We would like the particular instance. We were measuring gamma radiation in an area that had no right to have any gamma radiation, and then we come back the next day and it was completely gone. Gamma radiation doesn't do that. I mean, if you've got something in the ground that's radioactive, it's going to have decay constantly. It's going to constantly have all this, photons coming off it and everything like that. It's not periodic in nature. It's just gonna go until it decays. So we couldn't explain how one day we would have like a whole bunch of radiation in one area, and then the next day it would be gone. So that is something that is completely, we couldn't understand that, and that's something that we were scratching our heads about. Wow.
Right, I've got 2 questions for you. I need to ask you now because I will forget. So the first one, so when in the show you found like that dip, and I think it was Travis was pouring water into it with a blue dye to see where it come out.
Was that in the season? Because I only know about season 1. I really didn't know anything about season 2.
I'm not sure if that's season 1 or season 2. And he had like the pump, and he's just pumping water into it, and they filled it up, and then it drained within something like 2 hours. But they never found where it actually went.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, that's another good question. Another good correlation between the different properties. They all seem to be above big aquifers. So like Stardust Ranch is above a humongous underground lake. Blind Frog Ranch, same thing. So when you start pumping the stuff in, you're going to get to the point where it's just going to flow back into the aquifer. So I'm not surprised it didn't come out. There's a lot of underground streams and things like that. But it seems like this phenomenon likes to hang out in areas where you've had this mountainous range and you've got these big underground aquifers or big underground water repositories. You know, is it because that's just a attractive place for the phenomenon to live, or I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. It needs to have a certain type of different things for it to work, and if it's got all this stuff going on, then it's, I don't know, maybe it can manifest easier without having to use too much of its own energy.
So Blind Frog did the same thing. They poured fluorescent, so they took fluorescent dye and they poured
that was it.
And it came out in a couple different areas, but there is a lot of water underneath that property as well, and that's probably what they're looking for, gold and stuff like that. So it's very interesting.
Right. The next question, and then I'll leave it to the viewers and that. So I don't know, I can't remember what season it was, but there's something happened to one of the cows, one of the cattle. It just went off on its own. And it died.
Yeah, that was the first season. There
was a UFO sighted just above it, or some sort of orb, when they watched the video back later. And there's I think it's a security guy, I can't remember his name. Is it Darren? I might got the names right. I'm rubbish for names. And he was picking up really high radiation level that shouldn't, like you were saying before, that shouldn't have been there. So all the other cows had gone like in one corner, and this had just gone off on its own, and then it just died.
Yeah, so it kind of turns out that we talked to the vet a lot, and the veterinarian who did the necropsy, and looked at the cow, tried to figure out why the cow actually passed away, and he said the cow just got scared to death. I mean, literally scared to death. And the reason is that so each of us in our bodies, we have, like I said, we have bacteria in our bodies all the time. Yeah. And we have pneumonia bacteria in our bodies all the time. And when our immune system gets compromised, that those viruses can start manifesting or bacteria, I'm sorry, not viruses. Those bacteria can start manifesting and growing and taking over and becoming significant diseases. Turns out that when we become scared, our immune system gets easily compromised. So what he felt is that, or the veterinarian felt, is that this cow somehow got scared. Now, how do you scare a cow? I mean, I don't know. It's so this cow got extremely scared. It got stressed, big time stressor, and immune system got compromised, got pneumonia, and passed away within 2 days. So he felt that it was some kind of, he's seen this before, it was some kind of electromagnetic signal that scared the cow. And I think that was actually part of the show. And that was actually, I think that was me that kind of talked about that or something. But it was.
I remember the vet coming because he came and checked the cow out, and I couldn't remember what happened after that.
So basically, it's like he felt that because that day when that cow passed away, all the cows were hurting, and they were, and I'm not a farmer. I have no idea anything about cows. And because I said to everybody, says, why are those cows running back and forth? I had no idea. And it was like, it was stampeding, literally stampeding back and forth, these cows. And I said, why the hell are they doing that? And they said, well, I don't know. They're scared of something. So it could have been very likely that there's something going on. Maybe there was something in the sky above that was emanating or radiating something that was the cows just didn't like, and they didn't understand it. When animals don't understand something, they get very scared, and they end up dying. So that's unfortunate.
I have remembered another question, and I don't think we ever found out what happened. So there was some alpacas or llamas in a corral, and something tried attacking them. It was just before the cameras were set up, or it was just off camera, but never found out what it was. Did you guys ever get told what had gone on?
It was neighborhood dogs, unfortunately.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was neighborhood dogs. It was they were not being guarded. It was, I'm not going to say that it was done on purpose, but it was horrible. I didn't want anything to do with that. It was like, oh my God, how can you people do this?
Yeah, because
those poor animals.
alpaca was ripped, the face,
Oh
the
my
neck,
God, it
the
was
side, and
horrible.
everything.
So luckily they stopped doing that. They took the alpaca away, and any new animals that came on, they protected them. All these dogs that were all over the place.
Really?
These big dogs.
Yeah, because first he thought it might have been coyotes.
Yeah, there was just a pack of local dogs.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, it was so unfortunate. It was terrible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for clearing that. Do appreciate it.
So I wonder if anybody's ever tried to take like the data of these places, like that they're in a basin, that they're over aquifers, and kind of extrapolate that and find other places that might be hot spots.
Yeah, so that's a really good. That's actually a really good question, and I think that we're starting to do that now. The government, maybe the U.S. government, is starting to say, "Wait a minute, there's a pattern developing here." You know, you've got all these ranches; they're taking them much more seriously than they used to. You know, just everyday people like myself that are, have regular jobs that could do this kind of or as a hobby, don't have the capabilities of satellite data that the government has. The government has like way better. I mean, Google Earth is great, but the government also has like amazing satellite data that they can use to actually do this kind of thing. So maybe they're starting to do this. I think the technology is certainly there to do this. And, I would encourage anybody to do this, but you can actually take the Google Earth and go search for very similar things. You take Stardust Ranch, the very certain kind of characteristics of that. And you have Blind Frog Ranch, which has certain characteristics. You have Mount Wilson Ranch has certain, and put all that together and say, okay, where else is there in the world? Because I know there's a lot of other places. I think Paul Sinclair actually talked about this when I talked to him. He talked about all the different places that are very, very similar that he's investigated that have the same kind of look and feel as these ranches.
Yeah. So a place called Bton up in Bridlington.
Yes. Yeah. That's where. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm fingers crossed. I'm going up in a couple of months and meeting Paul. I've never been to Bton, so
okay.
Hopefully something
I would
nice
love
will
to
happen,
go there.
and I'll be able to talk about it and come back. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Well, yeah, like you said, they've got them. They've got to have them all around the world, but then there's not that many people coming forward and talking about it. Maybe they don't want the publicity, or hundreds of people stampeding the ground, turning up 24/7 and all that kind of stuff.
Like Dr. Jim said, like you have to have the right group of people there.
Yeah, so I mean, just to go along that line, I think it's for me, it's very sad that the reason I got involved in this. So after I did the show, I kind of left the show and I said, okay, you guys, it was a drama show, so it wasn't my thing. I wanted to be kind of into science, and then all of a sudden, all these people started to come to me and says, look, I'm still having these issues. I'm scared to leave my front, scared to go in the car because I might have an experience. I might go into a trance and stuff like that. They were very nervous about that. So that's how I got involved in this. And as I spent more and more time with these people, what they call now experiencers, people that see UFOs and orbs and things like that. It's interesting because they are very, very private people. And they don't like to have any exposure because of what they would be viewed as. And I'm involved actually in a Reddit group that is the Experiencer Reddit group. It's a subreddit group. And what I've learned from them is that there are hundreds of thousands of people out there that have experiences. And they're just like, they don't want to come forward because they're scared of what people will think of them. They're scared of what, their jobs, their families, their neighbors would think of them. But I think that's loosening up because we're starting to see more and more people coming forward and admitting that, look, I've been seeing this person every month would come down and sit with me. And I go into a catatonic state and they would just be sitting with me every month. I can almost guarantee that sometime within the month they will do that. And they finally admit that they would, and of course there's nobody there, there's nobody physically there, but they're afraid of admitting that. So a lot of people are coming forward. And because of my involvement with this group of people that are just amazing, they are so in tune with the experiencers that they know a lot about them, that I've learned a lot of this. And you can actually, you can tell when somebody's like holding back and saying, I don't really want to tell you anything because it's going to be detrimental to my livelihood.
Yeah. So do you get many people turning up faking it?
You can, but it's very, very difficult to do that because the narratives have to line up.
Yeah.
And you can, so what I did, I did a study after I left the show. I did a study in the Uinta Basin, not just in the Uinta Basin, throughout the United States, with 36 people. And I gave them some equipment, and I also gave them a website where they would every day come in, or they'd say once a week. That's all they really asked. They would come in and they'd give narratives on how they did that week. What experience they had, what kind of premonition, what kind of thoughts went through their mind, and things like that. And I got to the point where I had thousands of these narratives that they entered throughout those 3 years that they were actually in the study. And you can tell when somebody's being earnest, or you can tell when somebody's just writing something down. And I have software from Facebook that actually will tell you whether or not those are just not made up, but fanciful things were actually, or it's something that they really felt deep and they were very sincere. So you can get these measurements called how sincere these people are. So you can actually tell how sincere they are when they write these narratives, just by the verbs and all the adjectives that they use and how they place everything. And it's just Facebook. I mean, this is just regular technology Facebook has that you can use. Wow. So I can tell very easily whether if somebody's not really being earnest about what their experiences are, and just making it up to be, because they use different, they inflect differently and things like that, the way they talk. So anyway, so right.
Yeah. No, thank you. Have you any questions, Nicole?
So many. I'm trying to like narrow it down in my head right now.
That's what I was doing.
All right. So when, Skinwalker Ranch, it's this show, we all know that the actual experience of investigating and researching is different than what's shown. What do you think the main difference is from what they showed versus what you experienced?
So one of the big reasons that I left the show is that when you go to do a scientific experiment, you have to set up your environment. You have to make it so you get repeatability and things like that. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work well with TV. So what you see on the TV show is a very abrupt, maybe a cursory view of what really should have been done behind the scenes. Real experiments, making sure that you understand all your variables and all those kind of things. So, all due respect to Travis, I mean, he tries very, very hard, and I feel sorry for him a lot. He never really gets to do an experiment that he can actually walk away with some data. It's usually just do something, and then the producers say, okay, let's shuffle you off to the next thing. So, but that's TV, right? I mean, that's just the way things happen.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, there's a lot of things that are different that you should be seeing on the TV show and what you don't. But Skinwalker Ranch is a reality show. It's a drama show. So, but other shows are more scientific discovery shows. That's when they kind of get deeper into the the guts of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, I do have another question, and it has been bugging me. So, when anyone mentioned digging or drilling, Dragon would you'd see him having like a mini panic attack. Did he know there was something more to it than what he was letting on? Because he was very, I don't really want anyone digging or doing anything.
I think that all came from the fact that the current owner didn't own the underneath.
Oh,
so there's the top
right.
section, and then there's the mineral section.
So he couldn't touch that.
He couldn't legally touch that. Somebody else owned that. But
right.
the other ranches, they owned everything.
Right.
So they really couldn't dig too deep. I don't know what the numbers were. I mean, that's public. I mean, that's not secretive. That's just public knowledge.
No.
It's like, yeah. So
it's just every time digging was mentioned, Dragon would be like,
yeah,
no,
Bigelow,
not digging.
Bigelow didn't own it. Bigelow didn't own the mineral rights. So I would assume that Brandon didn't either. So that's probably why he was. Yeah, you can't dig because it's like, wait a minute, we don't own that, and people can come in.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's legal and legal battles and
oh my god,
ownership and everything. Yeah, it's not even worth the paperwork, is it?
And there's a lot of oil in that area, so I'm sure that they're really sensitive. Like a lot of oil people. I bet you there's oil companies that maybe own that underneath.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? You own the top, but you don't own the underneath. It's like, wait a minute, doesn't make any sense.
Take out the whole bottom, and you should go.
Yeah,
it's like owning a bottle of beer, but you only own the glass.
That's it.
You can't touch what's inside it.
That's
you
crazy.
Can look at it.
That's how it works, though.
Wow.
But like the blind frog people, they own everything. They own the whole everything, so they can dig as deep as they want.
Yeah.
Blind frog is interesting.
Mm.
That one I think is fascinating. Like those frogs just came out.
I know
nowhere.
That's crazy. I don't. Yeah, it's and it is. People say it's not true, but I got to tell you, it is true. I mean, all the stuff that happens to them is true. They don't make a whole lot of stuff up. A lot of the stuff maybe it's staged a little bit different, but they dig and they find radiation and so that stuff is real.
Yeah.
Well, the way they made the story sound is like the frogs came out like a plague, like just a bunch of like blind frogs just started like spurting out of the ground.
Right. They did.
And that's exactly
And I went there. I was there a couple times. And well, you asked me, I think before the show, did I ever have any experiences? And the only experience I really had is I was there with two amazing experiencers. I was an experiencer. And I was standing there with them in this area where the frogs came out. And all of a sudden, every single sound of the environment stopped. And I'm a very rational person. I have engineering degrees, physics degrees. So I'm taught to think rationally. And I couldn't explain why all the cricket stops, the bird stopped, every single thing stopped, but I could hear them just fine. And so I was with these two experiencers, and they just said to me that this is fairly typical for the kind of things that happens to them. On a weekly basis, they would go into an area, and all of a sudden, everything just stops. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on that property. Yeah.
So was any cameras set up like thermal or infrared, night vision?
On Blind Frog?
On Blind Frog, yeah.
It was no, but they actually asked me to set up on their property now, so they're starting to do that now. So Dwayne is actually saying, let's get going with this because there's some really weird things happening.
Oh, so how is this going to work? So when you go, are you going to document it? Are you going to film it?
Don't know if it's going to end up in the show. Yeah, I don't think it will end up in the show. He's given me permission to actually take some data there, do some scientific research, and stuff like that. So he's very nice. I mean, this is a super nice guy.
Yeah. And how long are you out there for? Do you know?
The first time I was out there just for a week. I don't know. This summer, I'm still waiting to hear what my window is going to be because they're going to do filming and stuff like that. So I'm going to get a window that I can go there and do some stuff.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're looking forward to it.
I can't wait. I love it's kind of remote. It's not like you can just drive up. To get there, you have to. It's a lot of work to get there. I mean, you have to go up and down. You have to go these roads that you can't imagine that a car could ever go down.
Really?
Like just stumble across it by accident.
Yeah, no way.
Cool.
All right, I have a question for you. Okay. Did I cut you off, Andy?
No, it's okay. Go.
So if you could conduct any experiment anywhere in the world, what would it be and where?
So I would like to instrument people in an area like actually a group of people say, actually, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think the younger generation, young generation, are the most amazing experiencers there are. I would take a group of high school kids, put biometrics on them, put them in a paranormal area that we know has a lot of paranormal activity, and monitor them, and then monitor the environment. And I think what we would find is an amazing amount of correlation between things that are happening to them and things that are happening in the environment. So if I was to do one experiment, of course I can't get high school kids to do that, but
I have a high schooler. I'll volunteer him.
I just think that whole generation, the new generation coming up now, is probably the best one because they haven't been polluted by all the stuff that you get polluted as you get older and older and older. Their minds are very, very open. And I think the problem with experiencers nowadays, or people nowadays, is that they've got so many filters that they've accumulated that if something does happen to them, if they do experience something, they just turn it off. They ignore it. They're maybe their back brain just says, this is crazy. You can't possibly see this. But the younger generation doesn't care about that crap anymore. They don't care. They kind of go their own way. So I think that they're the ones that are going to answer the questions for us.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
They also grew up with parents who weren't, naysaying everything as much.
Yep.
As the older generations. Like, no, you didn't see that. You didn't hear that. That's not real.
Yeah. Right. That's what it's like for me.
Yeah, I think this generation, though, it takes everything it takes everything with a grain of salt. They say, okay, you're telling me this. So I teach college, and the thing I tell my students, never accept anything for what people tell you. Always listen and investigate it yourself. And you question it, question everything. So I think this generation is actually starting to not have that, that stringent parental oversight all the time, and they're actually thinking for themselves. I think that this generation is going to be it.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Should we do some viewers' questions?
Yeah, we got a bunch.
Right. So this first one is from Nickname. That's Nicola. So she's asking, hi, Jim. Can you update and explain your piece of equipment that you created and the data you are collecting thus far? Thank you.
Yeah. So way back in 2017, 2018, when I started to do work, before Brandon owned it, before the show and everything. So we had some equipment there. And what I was trying to do, I said, since people are getting hurt physically, I mean, there was manifestations, there was physical manifestations of injuries on these people's body. That means that the vector of whatever is has to come from outside. If that's true, then I can possibly measure this. So I made a little piece of equipment, very, very inexpensive, and something that I can locate next to them, that so when they do have an experience, they could record the environment and correlate that with them. So that's how it all started. So basically, I wanted to measure, the electromagnetic fields. I wanted to measure the gamma fields, of the sound fields, the acceleration fields, the magnetic. Very, very important to measure the magnetic field. So this is the equipment that I actually built way back in the day. And then ever since then, I've morphed this, or I evolved this as I learned more and more about how this phenomenon reacts. So I had a bunch of, like I said, I had a bunch of people that were in a situation where, they were having experiences in their houses and their, when they went to school or when they were in their car. So I kind of evolved the equipment to get better and better understanding of what this is. In fact, I do have I put all this stuff on a website. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I apologize. I should probably have this.
No, you're
already.
Okay.
But I have a website that has all the equipment that's listed. And if you want, I can actually give you a link to that and put it in the chat or something like that.
Yeah, please. Or if you put it in the private chat, because it might not let you put it in the chat.
I'll put it in
and
the
then
private chat.
I'll share it.
Okay, perfect.
And then I'll
Here is
copy and paste it into the description on
so I'm in the private chat. So
YouTube as well.
Here's the website, and then inside the website, there's I have a whole bunch of all the documents I've ever created are on that website, and it kind of explains what I did for the 3 years in Uinta Basin, and all that stuff is all there. You guys can read it, and then all the equipment's on there too. All the equipment that I used, and
there we go.
So they can, look at that. So that hopefully, but I want everybody to understand that I didn't like start off with the right equipment. It evolved, and I said, oh, wait a minute, I need this sensor. Oh, then I said, oh, okay, I need this sensor, and all these. So it evolved from the beginning right to now. So the one that's going into like the Hesselden area is going to be has all the sensors that I've learned that are required if you're going to measure the right paranormal stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Cool. After
what? And that was a long-winded answer to that question, but
no. Oh, all answers are good, even if it's like no, don't know. Still a good answer.
Yeah.
Have you been anywhere and you've gone in on all this stuff going on, and you've gone in and debunked it like straight away?
Yeah, some stuff that. So one of the problems that I find is that there's a lot of enthusiastic scientists that are not professionally trained, and unfortunately, when that happens, you get a lot of people that jump to conclusions. You always get these people that just they see. The way science is supposed to work, you have an observation that doesn't really fit with the laws that are presented today. And then from there, you create a hypothesis. And then from there, you do experiments and blah, blah, blah. You end up with your thing. Anyway, a lot of these people, they jump right to the end and they say, okay, well, because of this, I had this observation, it must be this. And that really has a lot of problems, because if there's certain people that are like on TV shows that say things like that, it kind of leads the public to down these crooked paths, and it gives it a bad name. It really does. So like there was this incident on season 1 where one of the people there claimed that there was this huge magnet under the ground, and it was causing phones to go wonky. Yeah, and that's a great hypothesis, but the problem is that they went right to the end. They said, okay, well, this is, I see my phone jiggling, so it must be a big magnetic under the ground. They didn't say, okay, well, let's take the scientific approach. So those are kind of things where I don't debunk them, but I listen, and you kind of walk away and say, okay, well, now I understand how that person works, and you don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, it did. But it's led me to another question. So you mentioned about the phone. So when all the phones were going stupid, just everything on the screen all at once, constantly, was anyone able to work out what was going on with that?
So there's a lot of instances where you do get that kind of thing. So in the study that I did for the 3 years, so I had a lot of people claim. So the narratives that they typed in, every once in a while they'll type in that my phone blanked out, or my phone lost all of its memory, or all the pictures, something like that. Yeah. So there was a lot of correlation between what was happening to these people, and then what you would find during these incidents where you would have these very large magnetic spikes, and in fact, electromagnetic spikes. So it looks like when you're in an environment, and let's just go a little crazy here and say, let's just say a spacecraft flew over your head, an alien spacecraft, which is emanating a lot of energy. Very possible that if there was a spacecraft, it would be emanating a lot of energy, and for a very short period of time, it flew over you, and maybe it's firing off neurons in your head, making you have these sensations. But at the same time, your phone is receiving it, because your phone is all electromagnetic, right? It's got a lot of antennas. It's got a lot. It's picking up GPS. It's doing all this stuff. So whatever happening to you is very likely to be happening to your head or to your phone as well. So there's a correlation. So it looked like that when a lot of people complained that their phone was going out, and it wasn't just phones, it was a lot of other appliances like cars would stop. But it was all correlated with some very large deviation in one of the channels, like electromagnetic channel, or in, say, for instance, the gamma channel.
Right.
So yes, I do have.
So you found out what was going on.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's definite. I'm just saying is that you do get a correlation when that happens. The phones do start acting funny. Now, I'm not saying it happens all the time. It's just that there is a correlation that's more than just coincidence.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Got some more questions in the chat. So we kind of answered this one. It's from Fred Flintstone. Does this strange phenomena at Skinwalker also occur on the adjacent properties?
Yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. So I found the study that I did was so Skinwalker sits if you take the Uinta Basin, it's like, say like this. So Skinwalker's way at the bottom. The Blind Frog is up here, and then you have the whole canyon up top. So all along that basin, all along that area is all fraught with all of these places that are claiming to have these strange phenomena, and it goes all the way up to right into the mountain range. So the answer is yes, it happens all over the place. But I want to just make sure everybody understands that it's really not until somebody that has the ability to sense these things do you really get the stuff that you can actually record and manifest.
Yeah, because that's one of the questions that's always puzzled me. So when you hear about there's a particular thing in a certain woods or forest, and you know that there's people that go dog walking there pretty much every single day, and they've never had anything happen to them. I want to tell them, but they're going to think you're crazy if you explain what's going on. But they've probably been doing it like 30, 40 years. I've always gone for a walk through these woods, whether it's once a day or once a week, whatever, and never, ever encounter anything. And then that one person goes in, and every single time they go in, they have some sort of experience. Yeah.
So do you know a guy named Gary Noland? Gary Noland is a physicist. He works out of Stanford.
Not sure.
And he has some theories that are related to people's genetic workup that are just prone to being susceptible and being able to, it's within their DNA, they have this ability to interact with the phenomena.
Right.
And so it's very possible that, it's just that some people are better at it than others. I mean, some people can read 4 different languages. I can read 1, maybe 1. But there are just certain levels of abilities, and you get these people that go to these areas that are just good at it, and they start seeing things that nobody else saw.
So do you think that has anything down to blood type as well, or is that
could be? Well, genetics is has a lot of say of what all the things that are in our body.
Yeah.
So maybe not just specifically blood type, but maybe all the other markers, genetic markers that are within your DNA.
Yeah. No, cheers for that. Do you want to do the next question, Nicole?
Yeah. This one is from Nickname. Question for Jim. Are you visiting the UK at all? And where in the UK would you be interested in researching?
So I heard that, I like to go where you just mentioned.
Bton.
Yeah. But I know there's something in York. Is York a place that has a lot of paranormal activity?
Yes, it's an old Roman village.
Okay.
But that's never been like my area. So I'm from the northwest. That's forgot where it's from. But I now live in like the southeast. And York is northeast, I think. Northeast.
Okay.
So I've never really ventured up that way. So I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah, so I there's a group that is actually going there. I think in the end of the summer to do like a investigation there. So they're gonna bring a bunch of people. They're gonna go up into the mountains. They're gonna take readings and things like that. So I guess there's a lot of activity there. So, but I would love to go with Paul and you and go investigate that area a little bit more. That sounds like really cool.
I'm looking forward to going, but I'm kind of scared as well because of the location, how it is, like with it being on the cliffs and what have you.
Yeah.
My heights isn't my greatest thing. I'm not. I'll probably be about 20 foot from the cliff edge. That'll be the nearest to go to it, if that. So,
are you worried at all about the hitchhiker effect?
No, because I go out investigating anyway. So
you never brought anything back?
I'm going to say no, but that could be the
you never know, right?
Not while I've been living where I am. There's nothing, touch wood, nothing's happened here. But in previous properties that I've lived, there's just really strange stuff. One place, it was like on a daily basis. I called it my own little mini Skinwalker Ranch. It was that bad.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I got nothing. Just my hat man. Just my hat man and me.
No, I have had growling outside the bedroom window, shadow people, orbs outside. There's one I could see metallic ball in the sky, probably about 3-4 miles away south of where I was living. And I'd gone out and then come in and I was watching it for a bit, and then went out the next day. But the next day, it was the most horrible feeling ever because I got the feeling that it knew I could see it, and it was observing me. I didn't go out then for like 2-3 days. It was the same time, and it was awful. Didn't like that.
Exactly that is the narrative that really identifies what experiencers go through, because you're not the only one. I mean, there's like millions of these people that go through this on a day-to-day basis, and some of them are terrified. Some of them are afraid to even admit it because that they feel that if they admit it, then that would happen more often to them. So it's a very crazy thing. One of the things
go on. No, it's all right. Go on. Sorry.
One of the things that we were so like again, I'm working with this Reddit group or subgroup that is looking at the experiencer from the scientific point of view. And we're putting together a very detailed survey, which would give us the ability to understand exactly what you said, your narrative. Are there combinations of this narrative? Are there similarities between what you're saying and what another 100,000 other experiencers say that gives us a common denominator to say, okay, well, this is where this stuff is coming from? And because you talk about your experiences, where does that start? Where did that come from? I mean, did that happen at an early age? Did you just start doing this? So these are the kind of questions that I don't think anybody has answers to.
So, well, my first thing was that I can remember I was about 4 years old, and then it is ongoing. There's could be gaps of years or months before anything else happened. But in this particular house, there's full body apparition, disembodied voices, shadow shutting, the growling outside the window. It got to the point I'd be sat down watching TV and could see these shadow people in my peripheral. I'm like, I won't repeat what I said, but I told them to go away. I wasn't very polite about it. And it stopped for a couple of weeks. And then it all started again. I used to breed cats as well. So we used to have quite a lot of cats at the time. I think at this point we had about 9 or 12 cats. And so there's a noise upstairs. So all the cats, they could go upstairs, but they couldn't go in any of the rooms. All the doors were shut. And there's a noise. There weren't a bang or anything like that. Every single cat flew downstairs. They sat at the bottom of the stairs and were just staring straight up, all of them, just like that.
That's amazing.
Like they was in a trance. And my ex at the time she was like, "Are you going to go up and have a look?" Or if
no, I'm not going up
there. Not there. I'm staying with the cats. I ain't going nowhere. So I don't know what it is. But we've had writing a particular word written in steam on the bathroom mirror. And yeah,
Yikes.
that happened once. And I know who it was, and I think I know who it was and what it could have been. And it is a friend that had passed not that long ago.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was a nickname that he used to give me, but no one else knew about it. And his name was written in the mirror.
So
And
interestingly,
that freaked me out.
So again, I collected thousands of narratives of exactly the experiences you just said, and a lot of the common denominator was the way these episodes started was the dog started barking. I heard the dog barking, and then all of a sudden, I went into a trance and I woke up an hour later. So it was always the dog is more, or the animals are much more perceptive. And I think it's our filters. We have so many damn filters in our heads.
Yeah.
So the animals seem to not have those filters, and they just are perceptive of this. And maybe they go into a fright state or something like that, or a protected state when they feel this phenomena happening. Yeah. So you're not crazy.
No, but it's just I lived there, I think, about 4 or 5 years, and it just become normal everyday living.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's how bad it was. It's like you probably could go 2 days without anything happening, and then it'd start again.
Oh my gosh!
Get the cats back.
Yeah. Well, that was when I pulled the thing out my nose that I think was some sort of implant. I put it on the side of the bed, and it wasn't there, and
oh jeez,
just weird stuff. And I was having very lucid dreams about being on alien crafts and like Star Wars going on in the sky and all that weird. Yeah, it didn't make sense then. It don't make sense now.
Well, you seem to have a lot of great experiences. I mean, not great, but
yeah,
very vivid experiences.
Yeah, the ones at that house were like they happened 5 minutes ago. Every single, I can down to the tiniest detail I could tell you. So, yeah, I'm just glad I don't live there anymore.
Nicole, do you have those kind of experiences?
I have things. I'm an investigator, so I go out looking for them.
Yeah.
I have some things at this house. We've had a shadow figure popping around. Actually, on Monday, I saw a full figured apparition. We were at the Shanley Hotel. I haven't told you this yet, Andy.
No. I was going to say, this is new.
No, this is a new one. So I follow Susan, who's my team member, into a room. And I think my other team member, Lisa, is behind me. I see her, follow us in, stand next to me. She's standing next to us for a good while. I can see, the light hair, the dark jacket. She's, don't think anything of it. And then we're in there for a bit. And then I turn to her to tell her it's time to, go. We should probably get downstairs. She's not there. She didn't follow us into the room. She went downstairs. That was someone else who was standing there next to me the whole time.
Wow.
Did you not look to see if it was her or not?
No, you know how you can just kind of see somebody out of your side of your see somebody on your side? You can see kind of enough details to see this is yeah. You can see the light hair, you see that she's wearing black.
Hmm.
So that was interesting because I don't often see full body apparitions just hanging out for a while.
You're probably seeing what he was up to.
Probably. Well, it's funny because Susan is a medium, and she was kind of called into that room. She's like, no, the woman in the hallway, she wants us to go into this room. I was like, okay, so I thought we all went into that room, and apparently not. Apparently the woman followed us into there.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That was a cool one.
Yeah. A little bit.
What amazes me that people, after a while, they just get used to this. I mean, if that happened, it's scared the hell out of people.
I kind of like being scared as well, though, for the right reason.
That makes
I
it
think
good then.
it's the adrenaline, the buzz that you get from it. I think
Mhm.
it's that. And it's also because it is unknown and the not knowing and not really understanding what's going on. I think it's a mix of all that that makes it so interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's when people don't know, human nature, right? When people don't know something, they immediately say, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?"
Yeah,
That's human
Yeah.
nature.
definitely.
But
Inquisitive, you're curious.
yeah,
Yeah.
how many people are scared in walking into a dark room? I mean, who wouldn't be?
See,
Right?
I
'Cause
used to
you
be.
just don't know, right?
Yeah.
It's the unknown stuff that scares people.
If it's somewhere I know and it's dark, then I'm
No,
fine.
completely. Yeah, a
Yeah.
brand new dark
Yeah.
room,
No,
right?
yeah,
Right.
I'd be like tiptoeing
Very
in, go
apprehensive.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's people like us who take that and like, no, I'm not going to be afraid of what's in the dark room. I'm going to go chase what's in the dark room.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not that brave.
You go out and do it.
Yeah, outside's different. See, this is a question I'm going to ask both of you now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you was having a paranormal encounter and something say something was chasing you, would you rather be in a house that you know or outside in an area you don't know?
Go ahead, Nicole. You want to answer that?
I'd rather be outside
Yeah, me too.
somewhere I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
me
if
too.
it's in a house where I do know, chances are I'll probably have to go back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can't decide, and it's my own question. I used to think I'd rather be in the house because I know it, I know the layout, I know where I can go, I know where everything is. But if you're outside an area you don't know, then it's just it's the mind games of it all that I can't cope with.
But if
So
you're
I
in the
think-
house and you know it, it's probably because you go there often, which
Yeah.
means you're going to have to keep going back.
Yeah, you're
But
gonna get
what-
used to it.
But what if it's your own house?
Yeah, you have to keep going back. Why do you want to get chased there?
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I'll go, outside.
Go put
There
the
we
coffee
go.
on and invite them in.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, right. Still got a few more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, this is a good one. So this is from Jojo, the moderator. Did anything happen at Skinwalker that actually scared you? Thank you.
It was that time. So I was with Travis, and we were behind the second house. I forgot, it was Homestead 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those airy type of situations where we were looking down a well or something like that. So I was very nervous. I wouldn't say scared. I was more nervous that whatever is in there could hurt us. And Travis eventually got, that's when he started to have all these symptoms. So nothing happened to me, but it was it was one of those like situations where you're on your, you're very aware of the surroundings. You're on you're ready for something to happen. So I think that was the one time. Other time, again, you have to realize in a TV show, you have cameramen, you have all these people around you. So there's 30 people around you constantly.
Yeah. Where it looks like there's only 1, 2, maybe 3 of you there.
Yeah. But I didn't, other times when I wasn't on the show, I don't know if that question relates to being on the show. Well, so I spent a lot of time when I wasn't on the show, just doing my own research and things like that.
Yeah.
Going down into caves, going down into caverns and things like that. I mean, some of that stuff, there's a lot of caverns under there. So going down to that stuff is kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So did you do that on your own or did you go with other people?
No, I went with somebody, but I was like, we would go down inside, we went spelunking.
What's that?
We went spelunking. We went inside of caverns and caves and things like that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep. So you just got to do it.
Yeah, be rude not to.
Yeah.
Next question, Nicole, do you want to do it? I'll pop it on. Oh, sorry.
All right, this is from Nickname. Please tell us more about Mount Wilson when you can, Jim. Amazing place.
Yeah, so actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but when Bigelow set out, so Bigelow said, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go buy a piece of property that has no paranormal stuff on it. So he started to look around. He looked at Stardust, he looked at Mount Wilson, and he looked at Skinwalker. And he was about to buy Mount Wilson because it had so much crazy stuff. A lot of caverns, a lot of weird things going on there, and it has a hotel on it, which is kind of cool. And a lot of things disappear. You know, people that go there to live there, or I'm sorry, not live there. You go there to stay there in the rooms. Weird things happen, things disappear. There's a lot of like weird things happening. So he wanted to buy Mount Wilson Ranch before he wanted to buy Skinwalker, but I think that fell through. I don't know the real reason, but there's pictures of him with like Hal Puthoff and a whole bunch of scientists at I think it was Jacques Vallée and all those guys were looking to buy Mount Wilson Ranch before they actually went to Skinwalker Ranch. So Mount Wilson Ranch is actually a lot of paranormal things are happening there. And that's why it's so intriguing for people, because it's like you want to go to an area that has a lot of hot stuff going on that you have access to. You know, right now, Skinwalker Ranch is kind of off the market because, you know, it's private. Nobody tells you anything. They save everything for the show and they kind of feed it to you in a way. But Mount Wilson is wide open. You can go there and it, like stuff really happens. Yeah. So it's a cool place. I've not been there yet, but I've seen a lot of video. And I know a lot of people that have been there.
Yeah. So are you planning on going?
We have a trip planned very shortly to go there and instrument the place.
Oh, cool. But you can't wait for that one as well.
Yeah. Hope I don't get into hitchhikers. No. Fingers crossed you won't. Here's one from Geralt of Midwest Night Watchers. So Stardust Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, and yeah. Well, they're all out. They're all out in the west. So in desert, most of them are desert. So like Blind Frog is in the desert. There's nothing around. Skinwalker's all in the desert. Stardust, that's actually super desert, right? Arizona's like it's all cow country. You can't grow anything. And then Stardust or Mount Wilson is actually in the same area. You know, same type of thing. It's just above Las Vegas, so it's in a desert. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff there, but there's a lot of stuff that happens here too. When I say here, on the East Coast where I am, and Nicole is, I guess you're on the East Coast. There's a lot of strange things happening, but you have to ask yourself the question: why is it predominant out there? So that's a really good question. Why is it out there predominantly? But it's that's again can we take that information and go find other areas, just like Nicole just said?
Yeah.
So it's a good question.
Yeah. Is it? I don't know if you checked ley lines or anything like that run underneath.
So there happens to be from the Uinta Basin down through Blind Frog is a ley line.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they get hit by so much of this crazy stuff. And it's not just so much Blind Frog Ranch. All along that ley line, there's UFOs all over the place. There's a road that actually parallels a ley line that one of the people that were in the study was on. And they would go to work on that road and constantly sending me videos of UFOs that they were taking.
Wow.
And it happens to also be it'd be a cool place to visit. It also is a lot owned by the Native Americans are all over there. It's very sacred. It's it's kind of funny. The people at Skinwalker are very disrespectful of the property because they don't treat it with respect. But the Blind Frog people know that because they're situated right in the Native American area where a lot of very sacred places are, they treat it with respect. And So they get a lot of good things happening. So there's a lot of very, very positive, euphoric type of sensations you get when you go there. So that's right along that ley line that goes up through there.
Oh,
and maybe that's why they picked it. You know, it's very possible that's why they made it sacred ground, and why the Aztecs buried their stuff there is because it's got that, you know, very good feeling. You always want to bury your stuff where you feel good being.
Yeah. I've got a question for you because I'm running it on TikTok as well. So I'm doing a TikTok live while this is on. So I've got a question from Michael, and he's asking, what do you feel is under all the ranches? Military bases, UFO bases? Question mark.
Yeah, so Bigelow thought that underneath Skinwalker Ranch, and he was this guy was really positive that he felt that there was a buried aircraft or a buried UFO underneath there.
Yeah.
And that's why you had so much, why the radiation pops up every now and then, it goes away. Why under Stardust Ranch? Why is there all of this crazy stuff happening right at that point? Why is there water there? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's something that was buried under there millions of years ago.
Because when they was doing, it's not the sonograph or whatever it was.
Yep.
They picked up some sort of dome shape underneath, didn't they? Just below the ground, about 20, 50 foot or something. I can't remember the depth.
Yeah, there was a lot of very strange things, but we're talking hundreds of feet down, hundreds and hundreds of feet.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so this stuff is super deep.
Right.
And it makes sense. I mean, if it was that shallow, I mean, you would get a lot more radiation. You would get a lot more things coming up. So and it would be more evident. I mean, you'd have vibrations, you'd have all sorts of things coming up. But,
So did you ever feel any vibrations or hear any humming sounds?
Yeah, so infrasound. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term. Infrasound is very low level vibration.
Yeah.
That's something you pick up. So the instruments that I have pick that up all the time.
Wow.
And it's not, so infrasound is kind of unique that it's such a long wavelength. I mean, it's gigantic. It's like football field wavelengths that is very, very hard to make it, to manifest it. So if you wanted to create infrasound, you'd have to buy these enormous speakers and things like that. So very hard to make it, but we're reading it. So what does that mean? So it must be coming from somewhere deep in the earth that's being, brought through, either some caverns, or it's going through the water underneath the ground or something like that. So we read a lot of infrasound. Very, very, which is akin to vibration.
And doesn't that make you feel like uneasy? And
very much so, yeah. People can vomit. I mean, because it affects your inner ear, right? It gets in your cochlea, and it makes you like feel very uneasy, and people throw up.
Yeah. Did you hear any? Oh, sorry. Go on.
I've heard they play those sounds in like haunted houses and stuff. They play those very, very low sounds to scare people without them realizing it.
Yeah. Very dangerous stuff. But
was there did you hear any mechanical sounds? Oh, sounds that sound mechanical.
So there was a lot of speculation that there might be some P waves, which is the vibrations that come from like the seismic waves that go across the surface of the earth. We never really got that kind of stuff, or mechanical vibrations. The problem is that any kind of vibrations kind of get perturbed when they come through the earth. But, maybe the infrasound doesn't. So any kind of vibration would have to be surface bound. So that's when you start picking up like the seismic stuff. But we never got any that type of thing.
No.
Even in Blind Frog, you didn't get any of that kind of stuff. But then again, probably didn't have the right instrumentation to read that. So I'm not going to say that we didn't read it. I'm saying that we were unable to read it.
Yeah.
So if it was there, we just didn't have the right equipment to read it. So again, you evolve as you get smarter and smarter. You evolve your equipment to pick up more and more things.
Yeah. So my final question for you, still a couple more, but what do you believe, or what's your theory of what is actually going on? Whether it's Skinwalker, Blind Frog, Stardust.
Don't know. I think whatever it is, it's intelligent. I really believe that it can't do the things it's doing and affect the people it's affecting in that way without having some form of intelligence, because it seems to react to the individuals in a very specific way individually. So you'd have to have a
coming from the same source then.
Oh, I don't know.
Or is it different?
Yeah.
Things?
I used to think it came from above.
Yeah.
Maybe it's coming from below. I don't know. It's like
that's where I'm going now. Is it's coming from underneath. I don't know why. It's just certain things that have seen and read or even experienced. It's like it just doesn't feel right that it could be coming from anywhere else. Like gut feeling.
Yeah. So now there's this thing now. The people that believe in that are research into like Bigfoot and things like that. They talk about alternate dimensions, and they talk about the whole idea of alternate dimensions. I'm not prescribing to that or anything like that. But if you think about that for a second, maybe the phenomena lives in an alternate dimension. Doesn't come from above. It doesn't come from below. It comes from around us.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. It's just that we can't visualize it. We only exist in 3, right? 4 if you include time, but we only exist in 3. It's possible that it's coming from this right around us, but it's just in a different dimension. That's all. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, having this whole, is it coming from above? It coming from below? Maybe it's just coming from all around.
See, that's my best guess for all this stuff is something that we can't understand yet.
Right.
Because if it's below, like we know below for the most part, we can kind of get some of the above, but we don't know what we don't know yet. If it's here and we just can't visualize it or we can't measure it, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
We just, but to Nicole's point, people do see things in the air.
Yes.
So that gives me a big question mark, is that, if it's there, why is it manifesting like that to them? But maybe it's not manifesting to that. Maybe they're just visualizing that. I don't know. It's you can speculate on that all day, but I just think it's coming from some other place that it's all around us.
Yeah. So I'm, Nicole will tell you, a big believer in not hollow earth, but in earth. I think a lot of it is coming from underground. But even that could still be a different dimension or a different realm.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be running in the time that we're in now. It can be a separate time. Obviously, I'm running parallel to this one.
Right. That's a good point. So everybody says it's like now time. It doesn't have to be.
No.
So a lot of the people talk to when they have visitors, they have ancient visitors, people that visit from like hundreds and thousands of years ago. So we don't know. It could be that it's a different space, but it could be a whole different time.
Yeah, because you say all the times are running all the time.
All the time.
Constantly, just forever. So if that's true, then surely if you have the ability, you can dip in between and go forward, backward, sideways, upside down, wherever you want. If you know how to do it, you can do it.
Yeah, that explains why there's radiation at that moment and then not when naturally it shouldn't just dissipate instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes hundreds of years to go.
But if time doesn't exist like we think it exists, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, because then if that time has then stopped and gone, then all the Rembrandts of everything that was with it are going to go as well. So it's going to leave no trace, no residue, nothing.
So you know what I think?
Wow.
500,000 years from now, when we look back, or the people there look back at us, they say, boy, what a bunch of idiots. It was so simple. It was right in front of their faces. All they had to do is like, we don't have that ability. So
I always
No.
think of like back in the ancient times when they thought like rain was like given by the gods, and
That's
like, and
right.
now we know we're like,
Yeah.
no, it's from the clouds and the water cycle. Like that's what they're going to think of us.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an obvious thing
Mhm.
way in the future, but right now, all we have is speculation.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you not think we're overlooking what it is we're looking for?
We
Is
are.
that a possibility?
Could be. Overthinking it.
Mm,
Yep.
digging too deep instead of like one of the most famous sayings, hidden in plain sight. It's
Hidden in
actually
plain
there
sight.
right in front of you, but we're trying so hard that we're just not seeing it.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Well, that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes the scientist's jobs much harder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
You have to have some foundation you can work with.
Yeah. But you must love what you do. Or you can tell you love what.
Hey, it's
The
fun.
job
It's
that you
fun.
do,
That's
and-
actually answering hard questions is always a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's also the most frustrating thing you can do.
Yeah. I don't like answering. I like asking.
Science is hard right now because science is really stuck on like proving things that we think it should be rather than proving what it actually is. So we kind of have to get out of that mindset, and hoping the newer generation will kind of get out of that.
Hopefully, yep. Get away from the big, university institutions that teach a certain way, and I think we're getting into more free thinking now. First of all, free expression. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Free expression, and then you're going to get free thinking. So, I mean, nowadays the generations are very, very free in their thinking. So, I have a lot of hope for this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Because with the paranormal, it's not always replicable in controlled conditions like traditional science would need it to be provable.
Right.
Yeah. Right, got one final question before we go from Fred. So he's asking, what do your colleagues and friends in the scientific community think of this type of research? Because I'm guessing not everyone's going to agree on it. Obviously, with them being science-based.
Well, and it's important in the scientific realm. It's important to have people that are on both sides because it keeps you honest. So the scientific community, I mean, there's a certain sector that, first of all, there's a certain sector that would refuse to believe that because it violates all the natural laws that they are accustomed to. So there's that group, but there's also the group that says, we're gonna attack this thing, but attack it in such a way that you are responsible with the science that you portray to the people. So it's very important. So you can always come up with a theory that matches one little piece of the problem or the observation, and you can get it wrong, but you have to make sure that you're responsible enough to make sure that it fits within the realm of all science. So, I would say that to answer that question is you really have to be super careful and make sure that you don't violate the rules, so people will accept you. And we're doing peer-reviewed publications, so it's like they have an opportunity to stomp on this if they want. Travis Taylor just published a paper that was way out there, but it got peer-reviewed and published. So things are opening up, and it's really becoming nice. So we're going to be publishing soon and giving this information, and if they want to stomp on it, they can. But they have their opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
that's the scientific community.
Thank you. Nicole, have you any more questions? Probably got about 100 more, same as me, but we've come up to
We could
the
go
end
down
of the
rabbit holes all day.
I know. Be here forever, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, a massive thank you, Jim, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it was great questions. Really good questions. Really thinker questions. So
no, I'm glad you
enjoyed it. Have to do a part 2 if you're down for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that'd be great if you could. That'd be amazing.
We could do it live in Brampton.
Yes.
Over the
Oh,
cliff. Oh, you can't. That's right. You
No,
can't
no.
go there.
I'll get
You'll be from the back.
I'll get a zoom lens. I'll be all right.
All right.
I'll sit in the car about half a mile away. No, I think I should be all right. I'll soon find out.
Come set up some experiments in Pine Bush. See what's going on up here.
Okay.
There you
A
go.
lot of opportunities are around the world. So.
Yeah.
Trying to get Andy to come out and look for UFOs here.
I know. See, if I'd known you 5 years ago, I could have met up with you.
I know.
Because when I flew to New York, went to Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston, New York City, New York State, just all up and down the East Coast. I was only over for 10 days. But every car journey I went on, regardless of where it was, I was looking for Bigfoot. In the trees, on the mountains, everywhere.
Nice.
We're just always looking. I didn't even see a raccoon, let alone a Bigfoot. I was gutted, so gutted. But true story. But yeah, that's it. So gonna wrap this up now. So thank you again, Jim, for coming on. Thank you, Nicole, for joining. We are back on Friday to do the encrypted table. Nicole's not here. You're off doing an investigation of some sort. Is that true?
Yep.
Have I got it wrong?
Steakhouse.
Excellent. So it's going to be Dominic Zenden, Michelle Gray, myself, and Sarah, maybe Tommy, and we're going to be talking about past and future lives and everything else in between. So that's it. Have a great 2 days, everyone, and we'll see you on Friday. So take care and speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks again.